to.
Thanks, Jesse.
Everybody,
Hi, Tim.
Are you still in Paris? No, you're in New York.
I'm in Fishkill, New York, on my way back from Nassau County, where I
Okay.
was at the New York State Democratic Committee meeting.
Great.
Great. So welcome. I'm trying to settle down the camera and having trouble here. Let's see. That's what we want. See how that works. I think that's might have worked. Oh. So welcome, everybody. I'll start the meeting with the pledge to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I have a copy of the?
Oh, yeah. So let's see. I do have copies of the agenda.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
we can probably
Make copies there.
I think you get one.
Thank you.
Thank you. And let's see, I've got my report. So,
Thank you.
and that about do it? I think so. And then I guess,
Is that the flood image law?
pardon me,
What's on that?
this is the local law being
Yeah.
introduced tonight, so. So everybody has a copy, so. Great. One was captured, that's it, so. All right, so without further ado, Rick Albert and Lorraine Moran have joined us tonight to talk to us about the Joint Youth Commission, I guess, 2024.
Yeah,
And let me share my screen and put your presentation up, and I'll turn it over to you if you want to make any. I'll just turn it right over to you.
Sounds good.
I want to thank you guys for having us tonight. It's exciting to get to share all the good things that JYC is doing and the kind of youth work that you guys are supporting. Lorraine is really the JYC expert. You've been on the commission for 20+ years.
Wow.
Yeah, this will be my
26.
Wow,
this will be my 3rd year
okay,
as the JYC liaison for the county.
okay,
And I think Lorraine, you may have some remarks prepared.
Yes.
I'm sort of gonna support her and wing it, but the municipal youth service system was created in 1995. And it's a partnership between the county and Tompkins and municipalities in Tompkins County. The Joint Youth Commission is unique because it's 4 municipalities joined together to pool their funds and deliver services. So it's not just the town of Caroline, it's the village of Lansing, the village of Cuba Heights, and the town of Ithaca. We support 5 different youth programs with an emphasis on career readiness and first-time job employment and positive youth development.
Yeah, sure. In addition to Rick being the coordinator for youth services for the county, there are a 6-person unit of the county that does all the youth things related to the county. He is also our technical assistant, which for a volunteer committee. He does the agendas, the minutes, gives us the data on youth in the county, and like does our slide presentation, which is only 7 slides, by the way, so it won't be too long. Yeah, I'll make a few general remarks, and the collaboration makes sense of these municipalities getting together. That happened about 10 years ago, that you guys joined and the Village of Lansing joined. And the reason it makes sense is that all of these municipalities feed into the same schools. They feed into DeWitt, Boynton, Ithaca High School, LACS. So we're called the Inner Ring. We're a donut around the city, the town of Ithaca, the Village of Lansing, which is just a tiny little village up by the mall. So the Village of Cayuga Heights actually is under the auspices of the town of Ithaca, actually, but they're a separate villages, as you know.
So the other towns don't feed into that?
No, they have their own separate programs.
Okay.
So the Village of Lansing, that doesn't go to Lansing schools, it goes to the high school.
They go, the mall, the kids around the mall that live in the Village of Lansing go to Ithaca.
Oh,
Ithaca
okay.
schools. Yeah.
Okay.
So they don't go out to Lansing, so that makes sense in that way. It also makes sense that we can pool our monies and contract with services a little more easily, perhaps to get a little more bang for the buck with having the pooled monies. And Rick said or stated, we decided about 15 years ago to make career readiness and first-time employment our focus. The state of New York has a pretty strong emphasis on youth development. So we do have one wing of we always select a program that has sort of youth enrichment as part of what they do. The commission itself, we do needs assessment. We decide which programs to fund. We monitor those programs, and that's probably our biggest job, is going up to monitor programs. We serve somewhere around 300 to 450 youth most years. We have had about the same amount of money almost for 26 years, although that I've been on, although during 2008, it got cut pretty down when the financial crisis happened. We had a lot less money.
Did it bounce back from that?
It did bounce back. So the next slide number 2, the 5 programs we fund. The Learning Web is, you'll see that we spend about $230,000, and we serve about last year served 352 youth. The Learning Web, we fund with these 5 programs here. The Learning Web does a few different things for us. They have a youth exploration program, which is about exploring careers. And there's 2 parts to that. One is apprenticeships. If a youth comes to them and says, I'm interested in blacksmithing, they will go out and look for a blacksmith who might mentor him for a 5 or 6 week stint. If they say they have about 80 mentors that can do things, that are willing to. They've developed that over the years. So if a youth says they're interested in certain things, they will look for it. The other thing they do now, they've kind of switched to try to serve more youth into what they call career tours. So for instance, this past month was a busy month, so I, as a monitor, went and monitored 3 career tours. One was at the TSA at the airport, and there was about 12 youth that went there. And it was really interesting, you know, the machines, the man who did it described exactly what you'd have to do in high school and how you'd apply, and that, you know, for a while you got to work wherever they send you, and all, you know, explain the whole thing. And there were 2 youth who wanted to be in that type of thing, so they actually found their way to that program, or their mother or father found their way to that program. The other one I went to was at the Tompkins County Public Health Office, and again there were about 10 youth at that, and we sat in their boardroom and heard about more things than you'd guess that, you know, Tompkins County Public Health's involved. You know, lead paint, there's just all kinds of stuff they're involved in. And how you might get into that field. There were a few high schoolers, older high schoolers in that program that came. And what is the third? Oh, Farmer Ground up in Teberg. They
Yeah.
mill organic flour.
We
And-
eat it.
Yeah, yeah, and we had a tour of that, and again, I'd say there was about 12 youth at that
Oh, that's cool.
event too. It was kind of adorable. There was one youth who raised his hand to our question, said he'd like to work there now, but he was only 14, so it was very adorable. Anyway, so
Wow.
that's the kind of stuff the Learning Web does. You know, the Learning Web is a big organization. We contract with just one little part of it. They do homeless and runaway youth for the whole county. They do a lot of stuff.
Oh,
But anyway, for
okay.
us, they just do this
Okay.
one segment. Camp Coddington, counselor in training. That has been a long-running program. I think they usually have between 100 and 150 day campers at the Coddington Road Community Center. They just did a big capital
Big
project and have a new
I noticed.
gym and space and all this stuff.
Huge.
It's huge, yeah.
Yeah, but for us, between 9 and 11 students get, from our townships, get a counselor in training program where they are paid wages subsidized by us. They're paid wages and they shadow senior counselors. They have an orientation. They learn a little bit more about general job readiness, like resume. They have a little talk on child development because they're going to be working with young campers. So it's a 2-week kind of onboarding where they get a little more orientation and then they have the job and they earn the wages for about 5 weeks of wages. I think somewhere between 20 and 30 hours they get.
What's the age for that program? that you start?
That's like 14, 15-year-olds. Once they get to 16, if they've been there and they like it. So some people find out this isn't the kind of job I want to do, but some people find out that they love it and they often become then camp counselors the next year, you know, or they will take them on.
So
And-
that-
Cause I got one who's 12 who might want to.
Oh, well,
Be
get
in
him
that
in the
program.
shoot for this one.
Last year, Coddington had 6 youth from Caroline.
SCITs, you guys actually made all your money back right there because
Yeah.
it was $13,000 of wages.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
so I don't, I've got some questions, but I don't,
Sure.
is this,
Sure.
well, I just wondering, so we have in Brookendale, we have a summer camp. It's a
Interesting.
daycare program really, all summer. And I'm just wondering, we don't get funds like this for our CITs there?
Do you have counselor training program?
I don't run the program,
Oh,
but
oh.
I believe they do. I'm just trying to think. I know
It's
they,
the Brookendale.
Community center.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, interestingly, one of the Cornell Cooperative Extension Rural Youth Services, Beth Bannister, runs some programs
okay.
at the Brookendale Community
That
Center.
might be they might get funding through that.
They
so.
do.
Okay, and then my other question is, I actually work with youth an awful lot. I'm involved with Boy Scouts and
Mhm.
Girl Scouts, and my son was in Sea Scouts downtown, and that's never mentioned. Is there some reason?
Yeah.
Do you guys ever, because there's career readiness? There's
Yeah.
internships, I mean, people are learning, I was thinking there's a group of scouts who do aviation up at, and work up there learning how to fly and things like this. I'm just wondering.
I mean, the Boy Scouts are a private organization. They can do their own recruiting and so on. This is this little government enclave. Where
I guess I was,
have these
yeah,
things.
so what's the difference between that and the Learning Web? The Learning Web is not private?
They're private, not-for-profit.
Right,
And every 3 years, we'll put out a request for proposals.
okay,
Sort of outlining the JYC priorities. And that would be a time for new organizations to apply for funding. That was last year that we had put out the RFP, so currently we're in a renewal year. So typically, the funded agencies.
last year was a renewal year, so the
This
next.
year is,
This
last
is
year
a
was a
renewal,
new
yeah.
funding cycle. So in 2024,
Okay,
the agencies applied for funding and they
I
would
see,
get
so the
a
next would be
3-year.
2027.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If the Boy Scouts had some, proposal they wanted to make to us, we select programs from whatever comes in.
Okay,
So, yeah. we
okay, I wasn't
selected.
just thinking just the Boy Scouts, I was just. Because there are also Girl Scouts, there's also
Right.
Sea Scouts, there are
Right.
all these programs that are
Explorer Scouts,
placed
yeah.
with tons of volunteers. Reaching out and they could use help with funding,
Sure.
right, so.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that's,
The Boy Scouts have, used to have their own sort of way of funding things that was pretty big, so I'm not sure if that would be something we would take on, because this is all government funded, we can't privately,
Is there
fundraise
something,
for this.
is there something against, for example, they have, God in, a duty to God in their earth?
It
would that
could
throw them
be,
out?
I'm not sure, it has to be open to all, I think,
But the JYC contracts
we
with these-
contract,
whatever,
Mhm.
you
Okay,
know, they're contracting with selected
Right.
okay.
providers.
that's right,
One thing that the
Just have to
JYC
Put
is
this on my thing in 2027, look into this. Sorry, I missed it.
I will make sure to send it specifically to Mark or the town supervisor at that time. I don't know the cycle, election cycles or whatever, but
Oh,
so
I'm
that
not the
they-
town supervisor until.
It's
Twenty,
still forever.
24, so I don't think I have to worry about it.
Well, what Lorraine was speaking to is what makes the JYC sort of unique among the youth commissions is the oversight that they provide. So each of the funded agencies will come to our monthly meeting twice a year and sort of present to us, much like we're presenting to you tonight, about what they're doing. And there are the program monitoring that members will go out and observe the programs, provide feedback to the agencies. So there's like an ongoing oversight and evaluation happening.
And they sometimes bring the youth who are actually in the programs to the meetings, so we can get a chance to ask them how what they thought of it.
Cool.
So, well, just to finish up on this one, the Ithaca Youth Bureau is where Youth Employment Services is housed. That's a large city program, but we also contract with them. They have a lot of infrastructure. They have a building. They have this thing called Yes Connect, which is this whole computer program about career readiness. And then they provide work sites all summer long at all kinds of places. And those students who of the JYC, usually about 35 of them, will get summer jobs, and the jobs are minimum wage with fringe, and they get an orientation that's kind of like the city's orientation. They also have all these work site supervisors there, and I've sat in those orientations as well. It'll be the New York State Parks, it's a purse store in the Commons, there's all kinds of sites. And whatever reason, these supervisors are willing to take on students and supervise them. In addition to that supervisor who's on the work site, there's also a case manager from Yes, and that person will usually have about 10 or 20 students to manage, and we'll be checking in with them every week about how their job is going and if there are any behavior or attendance issues, all that kind of stuff. I met last year with students placed at the Discover Cayuga boat.
Yeah.
And that was really great. There were 5 students placed there, and I sat with each of them for 25 minutes and sat with the staff, and they've been doing that for as long as they've been around, the boat has. And each student on their last day, they do the tour with the microphones and
that's
do
cool.
the tour on the lake. And
But that's a great experience.
That's exciting.
yeah, I mean, it's some of the youth who got assigned to that site were like one young man, his dad had as a boat, so he was interested, but there were a variety of reasons why they got assigned to that, so it was kind of interesting. And one young woman told me, I'm deathly afraid of public speaking, and the supervisor and the case manager helped her so that she I'm very anxious, and I got through it. So that was a perfect first job, and as far as I can
That's
tell.
great.
We had one youth from Caroline in 2024,
Who was
Yes program.
who is in Yes. Getting down there to that area is a little bit of a barrier for your youth in Caroline. So we've done 2 things to outreach to Caroline. One is the Rural Youth Services Program, the next one on the docket there.
Sure.
Cornell Cooperative Extension Rural Youth. Beth Bannister comes out to the Brookendale Community Center, does a few programs. She also comes in the spring to the 5th grade of Caroline Elementary School, tells them about all these programs and tells them when you get to the middle school, you can be in the after-school enrichment, which she does, you know, all kinds of programs after school at DeWitt, which your students all go mostly to DeWitt. But she does it in Boyd, DeWitt, and LACS. And it'd be like, you know, Magic the Gathering. I don't know if you know Magic cards. It'll be during COVID, it was they cook dinner on Zoom. She gives you the list.
Wow.
The youth cooks the dinner and for the family. You know, I mean, they thought of things because Zoom was, I mean, this was really hard during COVID. You know,
Yeah.
that was
a good idea.
that was a couple of years ago.
We
But
need to get that going at my house.
yeah, at everybody's house. So Beth Bannister's been one of our long-term rural youth services persons, and on school breaks, she has programs, the Floating Classroom, Montezuma Swamp, Olympics, you know, they're during the breaks. Summer programming, yeah. And the last program, Youth Entrepreneur Market, that's new. We took a chance sort of and funded them.
I think that's in the previous slide.
Yeah, we're still on the.
It's the
Previous.
last one.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
the last
yeah.
one, but that's okay.
Yeah.
The Youth Entrepreneur Market is their most recent add to selecting a program. And they've been getting pretty amazing numbers to the program. It's a 5-session workshop on how to be an entrepreneur. And entrepreneurs in town are willing to come and talk to them. And the first session is idea generation. The second one is making your product or service. The third one is budgeting. The fourth one is marketing. I can't remember the last one. I think it's the entrepreneurial mindset. So anyway,
They're amazing. My kid went through a couple of them.
oh, good.
It's
Really?
fantastic.
Great to hear.
Yeah.
They take that idea of the entrepreneurial mindset and try, you know, you can apply that to many facets of your life in school.
Yeah.
Nice, great. So I monitor, they do this thing called Yem Fish Tank. And Fish Tank is like Shark Tank on TV. So, but after you've been through the 5 workshops, you can pitch your event to a panel of judges. You can also win some money. You know, the top 3 win some money. And I went on April 26th this year. 18 youth pitched their products, and it was really a joy to watch. There were about 50 people in the audience. There's a narrator. There's 3 judges who have been business people in town, and the 18 youth.
Wow, like a TV show.
Like the TV show. So
At the State Theater too.
yeah.
On stage.
Yeah.
if you need a borax crystal kit, over, or you need to relax with Sloan because she has hot or cold packs, or you need to get a ukulele guitar pick bracelet so that you don't lose your guitar picks. You'd be in shape for this fish tank event.
Wow.
And she played this little 9-year-old played a ukulele song, but it's
I've actually seen at some of those people that have been in those that program come back and be a presenter
Yeah.
right.
because they've successfully done their business
That's
as a
right.
young person, and then
Yeah.
it came back and told people how they did it and how successful they are.
Yeah.
So they
It's
will
already-
develop a product,
Mhm.
sell it at the farmer's market, and events like Rootstock. and
They
things
have
like
about 6 or 10 markets that they then hawk their product at. You see the Yum tent, and they Rootstock and Apple Fest, and they're there. And you can go on their website, by the way, any of these programs, go on their websites and frog around. You can see all these things that are there on all their websites. Yeah, so yeah, next thing, the funding sources. I think it took me like 11 years to understand this, but this little chart is handy for figuring it out. So New York State gives these small amounts of funds. I'm saying for a small town, you get like $650. For a big town, maybe you get $1,200. That money then is funneled through the county, and it's for youth development or youth enrichment specifically. So in terms of the JYC, we have then your township, the town of Caroline and Village of Cuba Heights putting in some funds, and the town of Ithaca putting in a pretty big lion's share of funds. there, and the town of Ithaca is our administrator, so they hold the contracts and do some of that work for us. And then we decide on the program, so, I don't know, that's pretty much,
Yeah,
how it goes.
so-
And we have a budget with us, if you wanted to know figures about who's putting in what, we have all
Yeah.
that. And the next slide then.
The original idea is the
Oh.
county would put up the money roughly around 55,000, and then the municipality would match that. In the JYC's case, you guys have got, they're beyond their county's matching. But, and then, pooling it all together, we get to that $230,000 number with, town of Ithaca making up about half of that.
And we thank you for continuing to support it, because, in my opinion, I mean, this little backbone of what we've been able to keep, even through some down spurts, it has kept everything kind of rolling, so
Yeah.
that part's great. So you can see from the pie graph, the numbers there, rural youth services 151, the CIT is 11 this year, YEM was 53. Learning Web 87, and Yes was 50. Yes is 50 because there was 35 people who got subsidized jobs. And then any child who's TANF eligible is a separate pool that Yes can use their monies, and we don't have to fund that part. So if someone in our township is TANF eligible, they can use, Yes will give them the TANF monies instead of our monies.
What's the TANF?
TANF
Means
is
tested, so if you're under a certain.
low income, I'm sorry, it's the low income
Oh,
money,
okay.
if you get free and reduced lunch and you're under certain, I forget what the number is anymore, 22,000.
So they get separate funding?
They get separate funding and they get some priority. They try to do an equitable kind of thing, so 30 kids do not get into Yes summer jobs, which upsets us every year. We get about 35 slots, and and every year minimum wage and fringe goes up, so the number they can do for the same amount of money goes down a little. So that's kind of what's been happening. It was 38 youth, now we get 34 youth that they can fund, because minimum wage and fringe are higher
Oh,
than
because
they
the
used to be.
funding's not going up.
The funding isn't going up. Yeah, it
Not
has.
imagine.
It just hasn't.
That'll have to be adjusted at some point. right?
We would like it to be adjusted a lot of times.
That's federal money?
Nope, it's all state
State,
and all
county,
municipality.
and Local,
They
local
seem to
share.
go to the county and then it goes to the towns and then we put it back together.
yeah.
Well, yeah, the towns decide to put in on this,
Mhm.
yeah. I just want to say that these programs are run by youth professionals, and they have to be, at this point, they have to, care about this population, be able to deal with adolescents and know a little about them. They have to be, at this point, data people, recruiters, publicizers, listservs. They've got to design programs that are of interest. And so they have to be a jack of all trades, and they have to be able to make relationships with youth. And they're a particular brand of people. And one of our biggest problems is modest salaries. And we have had amazing, totally dedicated to the population where they cannot stay, and because they cannot earn a living. So they don't stay. They go off to school, they go up. We have there's a rotating thing that's
Sure.
kind of unhappy for us all the time, in my opinion, and I don't know, feel the same way, Rick, but
Yeah.
that's what, it's just, they want to stay, but they can't, so they don't. But we've had good luck, keep finding people, because, I think it's like that.
Next slide.
Yeah, next slide.
Okay.
So we broke it out here by number of youth served in municipalities.
Right,
As you can read, Carolina, 68 youth. in 2024. Number of youth. And more coming.
yeah, the programs are really encouraged by us so strongly to do everything they can do to recruit and to increase their numbers served. We are just on them all the time about it. How can they increase and serve and get to kids? And I have to say, they seem to have been trying awfully hard, listservs, PTA listservs, newsletters, Instagram, Facebook, they are really try, all their programs are up and out there. It still seems hard seems sometimes for people to know about it, you know,
Yeah.
so we asked you tonight, and when we ask for questions, if you have any ideas on how we can do that better, oh, go ahead.
Just because it's popped in my head as
Yeah.
a parent.
Yeah,
I think one of the challenges is that age range. It's kind of like, I don't want to do it.
yeah,
I don't want to do it. But then once they do it, they have a good time. And so I think it's hard for parents to like hear that recording and then not make the shift for them or help them, the young people,
Yeah.
understand
I
the
think-
importance and the opportunity. And so if I can just speak for me, that was one of the challenges, is that he seemed interested in entrepreneurial stuff. But then we had to continue to encourage. And so
yeah,
the way life is these days in adults in our lives is it's getting harder and harder to keep our momentum. Sometimes I think, and so that's one of the, I think the biggest challenges is like, how do you engage and get parents to be excited and supporting the young people? That's, I think, a big piece of it, maybe.
That's good feedback.
that is, and it's
Sometimes-
it's hard to break through.
With recruiting in Scouts, what we've found is that we need to reach out to the parents at the same time to reach out to the kids, because kind of the kid says, this is fun, this is exciting, bring some friends, and the parent says, this is valuable and this is why, but it takes effort from both, and it's really hard, especially when you've got soccer in there, right, and hockey and things like that, because they're like, we're already so overwhelmed, we have to be at hockey 6 days a week, right, or whatever. And so that's difficult. It's a really difficult pitch, but did we put something out in the newsletter? When could we put something out in the newsletter?
Good. Yeah, definitely.
That would be great.
The
We're always asking the towns to put it out. I know we have put it in the old mill, is it? Yeah, we've put it in there a few times, but sometimes, you know, again, the Learning Web will change who's their program director. Somebody is, and it'll fall off the radar again. So anytime you can put it all back on the radar, we can send blurbs.
That'd
The
be great.
programs themselves are so willing to do whatever you ask them related to recruiting. So they will send you a blurb and.
They should do that. We have a printed newsletter now that goes out 3 or 4 times a year to every door in Caroline. So
least-
be happy to put something in.
Yeah,
That's
at
great.
least once or twice a year
And we
would
can
be
put it on
great.
our website too. We have a new website.
There's a website, there's also,
And-
not affiliated with the town government, but there is like a Brooktondale Neighbors Facebook
Oh,
page that is only like neighborly things. It's not just sell stuff, it's
Okay.
not to, you know,
like a listserv for.
it's like I
Brookfield,
lost my
kind of
cat,
little
so, you know,
listserv for
and
Brookfield.
information for the
Yeah.
community.
Well, there was a listserv for Brookendale also, the Carbrook.
Okay, some of the programs I know were accessing that. I don't know if they all were, but some were. Yeah, I know I've given my West Hill listserv to them a million times, and they have gotten some traction with those.
I'm pretty impressed at the 68 number for
Yeah,
Caroline.
really,
It looks
yeah.
like per capita,
You're doing
Caroline's
well.
number might be the highest.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
maybe because Beth lives here and she's in Carolina?
I think so.
School a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
reaches pretty well, and
Yeah.
also DeWitt School has been much more welcoming than the other schools for some reason. We don't know why. It's been that way for years. Boynton it made it harder for somehow for us to get in there. It's just been the way it's been. We don't know what that's about, but
Wait, so how old are the people that are participating? They must be 14 or something. Well, yeah, so they
Middle
would be going
school
to,
age most.
our
They would-
focus is middle school.
they would be going to DeWitt if they're Caroline students, I
Right.
guess.
Right.
I think it's also, I want to point out, from the county's perspective too, in the JYC, that we're having an emphasis on, it's free and open to all young people, but there is an emphasis on trying to connect with that student that maybe not into sports, that isn't connected
Right.
to the community, and reaching out and including those young people in the program.
Yeah.
too.
There's an intentional effort.
An intentional effort to reach
And
out
I,
to
and
them.
I think specifically, especially Beth Bannister is able to do that and can see when
That's great.
and we don't have any trouble with repeating programs. In other words, if they attend every single magic, they attend art, they attend photo, they, you know, that for that kind of youth who, you know, doesn't have as many connections, that's a great thing. So, you know, we're more than interested in some repeats related to that, you know. Yeah, my favorite, I'm old school. I love watching our programs rotate on government channel 15 TV access. They rotate through every day if you look at channel 15 on TV. But anyway, I think they try pretty hard to recruit. They table it both at the curriculum nights at the school. They really try to get out there and recruit. So, okay, last slide are the names of our current commission. We usually have around 10. Right now, we do not have a Caroline rep, and I just want to say
It looks like Caroline stands out on that.
Especially when it's
does.
Well, I made
We have had very lovely reps from your township over the years. Karen Scott.
Yeah.
I think there was 2 babies that came along on her lap while she was at those meetings. I'm not kidding either.
Yeah.
Nancy Kane, John Fraitia was, John did a lovely, little, I think he did it for you guys. He did a little program about the 5 programs years back. So it's been very lovely having your folks on the committee, and they've always been helpful to us. So we also need a youth representative. They are very hard to get. They have to come to a meeting at night, and they,
Karen Scott's son.
Titus was on it for a while. There is a lot of dropping off of our youth members.
Jonathan needs to be in here for this conversation.
What about what happened?
We need youth member. We need 2 youth members.
Red letters at the bottom.
We need Caroline representative.
Yeah, we do.
I've heard this from a number of people that I might fit that role.
Yeah, that would be great. We'd love to have
We
you.
meet on the second Tuesday of every month over Zoom, so it doesn't really require a lot of travel. And we typically do take the month of July off.
Yeah, 7 to 8:30 as second Tuesday. It's been that way for many, many years. So, and Chelsea, right now, she runs a good meeting, and we begin pretty much on time and end on time. So,
Great.
What was the time again? Second
7 to
Tuesday?
8:30.
7 to 8:30, okay.
and we do try to meet in person once or twice a year,
Yeah.
since COVID, trying
And you
to.
said you're looking for a Caroline representative, adult, and you're also looking for a youth
Yes,
representative.
exactly.
Not just an at-large youth representative.
Yes.
Yeah.
The only thing about the youth representatives, they gotta live in your township, they have to be 16 to vote on the committee, they gotta be 16 to vote. So here's the thing, if they go to ICSD, they have to do something for their government class, some kind of community,
Yeah, they
something
do
for
your
government class.
senior.
So that counts, and they get to watch the sausage of government made, so. Which isn't always too exciting, but they,
No, it's-
we've had reps who stayed on for 16 to 17 years old. Yeah,
And it looks good on applications for.
it looks
Yeah.
very good that you
Yes.
are a youth, a representative of your town on a
Yeah.
government board, so,
Great,
yeah.
yeah.
We just thank you guys for your continued support, and any other questions you have.
Yeah,
that's-
well,
that's
thanks
it
so much for
us.
coming. Hey, Tim's remote, and I always forget to notice remote attendees. I just want to see if you have anything, Tim, you wanted to ask or say.
Thank you very much for a thorough presentation. I have no questions.
Okay,
Great,
great. Yeah, no, this is really, I think, it's helpful for you guys to come here and give us a real lowdown on it. And so I appreciate that. And we will double down to see if we can produce a result for the,
That'd be great.
that would be great. We have a few new members right now, so, and we do get some turnover on our board as well,
So
so.
like Wolfgang was a Village of Lansing trustee. He had to step off in 2025. He moved, so he's no longer on there.
okay.
Chelsea is selling her house and going to Trumansburg, so she will be off as well, so we'll.
And Rich DiPaolo, who's been a long time
Yeah,
representative for the town. He's retiring this year, so next year
He
he'll.
won't be on
stepping
the,
off.
he won't be on the town of Ithaca board. There's a lot of change on that board.
Yeah, that's a big
So,
deal.
and they do a lot of work for us, really, doing the contracts and all this stuff. So, yeah, this year Caroline really kind of hit it pretty big with with subsidized jobs.
That's great.
Yeah.
And really, the programs sound,
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. There are problems that we try to troubleshoot, with some of the organizations at times where we don't feel they're getting the numbers or
Mm.
stuff, and you're asking them, hey, what's up? So
Mhm.
that happens.
We were in a little bit of a rough patch during the pandemic, but I think we've recovered from that now.
It was really difficult to connect to.
Yeah.
It was
Going.
The
really,
numbers
Yeah.
are real down.
well, school, everything's just,
Right.
everything, the numbers were very low then.
It was tough, but it did bring us Zoom.
It did bring us Zoom.
Right.
Yeah, it did bring us Zoom, that's for sure. The only thing I'll say about that is that for youth, that personal relationship is.
It's
Pretty
adults too, I think,
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
you miss the parking lot and the hall talk and.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
The Tompkins County Council of Governments meeting is tomorrow afternoon, and so since the pandemic, we've been meeting mostly by Zoom, but some people attend, but there was an appeal for
And in person.
in person, so I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
That'll be fun, so.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's nice to see your faces. I actually did look at your website and just saw what faces I'd be seeing. A little bit of your name, so thank you for inviting us.
well, thank you
Thanks
for
for
coming.
I'll take this, I'm on my Village of Moravia Planning Board, so I like to
Oh.
read zoning law.
Okay, great.
Look,
Yes,
Want a slide presentation? I have an extra.
Okay, thank you.
It-
Yeah, and the
Paper one,
the flood damage law that we're introducing tonight.
yeah.
All the municipalities are doing that because FEMA updated the.
Oh, the
flood
maps,
map.
the flood maps, yeah.
Yeah, so it's something, process everybody's going through.
Thank you for your.
I went to the Village of Lansing and I stayed because it was about culling deer, but and I had gone to Cuba Heights, and Cuba Heights, fought for 20 years about what to do with
Right.
deer.
Yeah, yeah,
Remember that? And so, but the Village of Lansing, they bring them to one spot. And they shoot.
They shoot.
Because they have like 3 or 4 MBAs that are fatal each year and like 30 bad car accidents.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
We have that.
like Cuba Heights, there's so many.
yeah, there's too many deer. There's no doubt about it.
The deer in Cuba Heights have about 6 tags on each year.
You could
Thank
definitely
you.
come,
On the
no
plan.
pressure, no obligation, just to check it out, what a meeting goes.
Do you wanna get your card, or do you have a card,
I have a
or
card for the county, but
I'll just maybe talk to the board and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, just second Tuesday.
Well, you need the Zoom link and stuff, I can send it to you.
Yeah, send
Like I
it
said,
to
no
them.
pressure, no obligation, come check.
Yeah,
it
just
out.
come and see if it,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it is a meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I go to
we're
lots of
used to
meetings.
that.
Thank you so much.
Nice to
Thank
see
you.
you.
Thanks so much. Have a good one. Oh, that was really fantastic.
Mhm.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing right now. All right. So I neglected at the beginning of the meeting to ask for anyone who wants to address the board, but there are no visitors outside of the board or Jesse, either here or online, so I'll dispense with that. Great, and I'll move on to my report that I sent out late today. I've been working with John and Angel on getting this and Barton and Lewitas, Rebecca, to get the 6 Mile Creek project going, and we all passed a resolution to contract with JVs. We got the contract in place now. And so the arrangement that we articulated with Soil and Water, I put the numbers in there. So we accepted the base bid part, which was $36,900, and with the cost share of $12,500 from the city of Ithaca, $12,500 from Soil and Water, and then $11,900 from the town of Caroline. And then we're thinking, you know, if we go out there with the contractor and do the pre-construction meeting, and in the conversations, there's any additional work suggested or recommended, then we would bring that back, get a cost estimate from the contractor, and that would be something for us to evaluate. But I don't want, and I'm open to any discussion or thoughts people have about that. I'm a little reluctant to basically open up a can of worms about that. I kind of like to just get this project done, but if there's something that's, you know, like super advisable, you know, this needs to be tweaked and I'll do it, you know, it's not exorbitant, I'd be open to that. So, does that sound reasonable to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's
Mark?
moving along. Yeah, Tim.
Is he coming to do a final walkthrough?
Yeah, so we're gonna have a pre-construction meeting with all of the stakeholders. So,
Has that been scheduled?
pardon me?
Has that been scheduled?
No, we're still getting it scheduled with the contractor, but I'll let you know when that happens. So yeah. And I think, pretty sure I mean, this is gonna happen this season, so. And then, ARPA reporting, I spent way too much time, and agony, but got the ARPA reporting in.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, you know, documenting our obligations and expenditure of our ARPA funds. So I think that's complete. We still have to keep reporting on an annual basis for the next 2 years until the ARPA period is completed, which is at the end of 2026. The WQIP grant awards for Braley Hill and South Roads, also spent too much time getting contract materials in, and so waiting. I think now the next step is the DEC will approve the contract, and then the Highway Department and Soil and Water will develop a plan to implement that, to put it out to bid. I suspect that project won't happen until next year. Since we don't have an engineered design ready yet to put out there. So Bobby let me know yesterday that he did want to proceed with an Adopt a Highway program for the town. So I asked him, and he wanted me to let you know that. And I asked him to send me language and instructions for the website for that.
So, you know, there are signs on Boyceville that say that it's in honor of Pat Arsenal and stuff like that. So what's that from?
That must be a county road then, because
On Boyceville Road? It's county?
yeah, Boyceville doesn't seem like a county road to me, but I think it must be.
It is. Boyceville is a county road.
Okay, thanks, Jesse.
Yep.
So all of the current adopted portions are county roads. The
Okay.
county is the only agency that administers Adopt a Highway right now.
Okay.
Mark, since this will require involve new signage, can we please make another plea to post the right to farm signs that the highway has had for some
Yes.
I'll ask them about that. Yeah, see where it's at.
And I'd also like to make a proposal that we consider minimal zoning enforced signs at strategic parts of the town. They have them in the town of Dryden, the town of Groton, et cetera. And it's just a reminder when contractors come across the town that we have zoning enforced in the town.
That's good.
We don't have to decide that right now.
Okay, I don't know about these signs. There are signs that say zoning enforced in Caroline?
No, there are not. There's,
No, that's what they would be.
they could just say zoning enforced and they could be on the town of Caroline sign
Oh, I see. Okay.
at the town line. It's just a suggestion that I have to assist the code officer.
Okay.
I will think about that, so things have calmed down a lot.
Yeah, I will think
I'm
about
not
it.
sure the signs would remain up.
It's not a matter of rubbing any, it's to inform contractors coming into the town. It
Okay.
doesn't pertain to the town residents per se. It's just a suggestion. I mean, other towns have them.
Yeah, okay. Broadband. The bonding is in place. I think I told you that before maybe. And so we're working, Velvet and I are working with Amanda and Amanda's really taking the lead on this to administer the funds properly and keep track. And so we're planning like the first week of June to move the funds to Dryden and put the process in place, so. And then our engineering firm Vantage Point has completed its review and modification of the project, and construction is restarting. They have revised the cost estimate. And we are talking with New York State, the CAO folks about possibly increasing the amount of the grant to accommodate the revised construction costs. I will say they appear receptive to that. They want this project to be realistically funded for what is being asked. So
What's the difference and how much are they?
if that, I don't remember do you remember the number? It's,
It's about 3 million.
is it 3?
It's
Okay,
about 3 million.
yeah, so
This seems significant.
it's significant.
It's significant, yep.
And if,
Like,
I'll give you later
Okay.
the actual number, but
Yeah.
if,
Might be a little under 3 million.
so, if you remember the first time, our local cost share with Dryden was 10%. So it would increase our local cost share.
Okay.
And the other
10%
reason,
of 3 million, by 10% of 3 million.
but then share it with Dryden. Also,
No, if our local cost share is,
no, our local cost share shared with Dryden was 10% of the total project cost.
right, so if the.
So we would share that with Dryden.
Oh, okay,
But we also have the lion's share. We're not 50% of Dryden. We're way over that, and that's being reevaluated.
okay.
So,
It's like 2/3 more like,
yeah.
So I'm a little confused. So does that mean the bond's gonna change?
Not
think so.
necessarily. We budgeted fat on the bond
Okay,
to accommodate things like this.
okay. I also have another question on the back to the ARPA, because they're intertwined, right? When you say the funds have been fully obliged and spent, does that mean the government can't pull it away now? It's like, it's obliged. It's been released.
That's my understanding.
Okay. I just want to make sure that
Mhm.
that's not still hanging over us.
Well, it was critical that this report get in properly.
Yeah.
Because they sent a letter that the December 31st deadline would be strictly enforced. And so, I submitted the report. I think, with the documentation and got all green lights.
Yeah, and I'm not judging or
No, I
asking about our end of things, I'm asking about the federal government.
So the only reason that I'm not just saying yes or no
Mhm.
is because I do not know what's possible in this world.
I think we don't know what's possible. I will say that so far, the ARPA funding, so New York Connect All Office and the municipal infrastructure project that we have for the broadband, that money is coming from ARPA, and that has not been targeted or frozen. Fingers crossed here, not on wood, I don't know what else to do, but so far that's still, the infrastructure bill, rural broadband got frozen because they want them not to have optic fiber, but to go with Starlink. So that's.
That's different than us.
That's different
That's
than
the-
ours.
is that
Ours
what
is
the county was
the
gonna do?
ARPA funding. Huh?
The infrastructure thing,
That's with the infrastructure bill.
did
Yeah.
the county go with the infrastructure bill?
I don't know what the county did.
I'm not
I don't-
sure.
I'd have
Okay.
to look or talk to somebody, yeah.
Okay, that's,
Anyway, I feel very good about it, and I also feel good about the broadband grant that we have from what the CAO office has told
All
us.
right,
Right,
that's good.
So,
yeah, it's, we've gotten a lot of support from the state, so.
Good.
Mark was just driving around with somebody yesterday.
yeah, so
Looking at the sites and things.
Dave Makar, the executive, he invited me to drive around. He did a tour with Josh Breitbart, who is the head,
Mhm.
the state head of this effort. And he was very,
Was this driving around to look at locations or something?
you have to look at infrastructure that's been installed in Dryden
Okay.
and look at the landscape and challenges in Caroline.
Because somebody told me that they saw a car that said,
Dryden fiber,
Dryden Fiber, like, not far from us, I think, but
could have
going,
been,
they'd go a few feet and stop, and then they'd go a few more feet and stop, and.
that
That
probably, so they have Dryden fiber, I don't know, magnetic decals they put on the cars when they go out, but
Yeah,
that may have been Vantage Point. So
Okay.
Dave's offered them the Dryden fiber things to put on there, but Vantage Point automobiles also say Vantage Point on
Okay.
them.
Yeah, so it's a Vantage Point's a new engineering firm that's working.
okay,
Right.
okay,
Just take note.
that's right. Maybe it did say Vantage Point, but it said something about, fiber, I think, so.
Yeah, well, we want people to know
Yeah.
about Dryden fiber.
I mean, I didn't see it, I'm just relating to somebody
Okay.
told it to me, so, yeah. Okay, interesting.
Yep, it's gonna be rolling.
Great.
Any other questions or concerns about all this? So I'm very excited. I'm impressed with the team
Hmm.
working on this. Alrighty, moving on, town clerk's report. Jesse, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to put my report together, but I'll make sure that it's in the minutes. I'll do it, put them in tomorrow when I'm doing it. So when you guys review the minutes, you can catch up on what the revenues were this month or back last month.
Great, that sounds good.
Thanks.
Yeah. Jesse was distracted today with penciling out our final tax receipt numbers and was ultimately successful, which was cause for
I heard-
great celebration.
I heard a lot of muttering in the office when I was signing bills, but.
Highway Department, so I did bring the 284 agreement. And so we should sign that in duplicate. There's space for me and each of you. And I will go ahead. And Michelle asked a good question about those two large numbers, and I sent an email. Did that make sense? My explanation?
Yeah, I just wasn't sure, because one of them had, it actually said 189 point. It didn't have a comma, it had a.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then, and the other one had no punctuation, and so
Yeah.
first I thought, is it 30,000, is it 300,000?
that was just punctuation. Yeah. And I think I actually fixed that on this copy. Is it better?
Yeah,
Okay.
where's the 189? Oh, yeah, yeah, it's great. Here you go.
We'll save it for you, Tim. Like you said, well, you can sign it when you get back.
Can't wait.
I'm sure you'll be excited to do that. Yeah. Hey, Jesse, I think you took care of this. I just wanted to confirm, did the standard workday materials get sent off to the retirement system?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Same thing twice.
Why a signature versus a vote? What's the difference?
I guess that's a good question. It does seem like, now that you say that this should be memorialized or whatever by a resolution, which we could put forward.
I mean, just curious, because I haven't
Yeah,
I
I
haven't
don't know.
done this yet, and I'm just wondering why
And
it's
I don't know,
slightly different.
I mean, Bobby said he thinks this is a very antiquated procedure. Which could be because it is. Actually, I noticed, there's a P missing from Tompkins, so I have to fix that. That, you know. So yeah, this is an agreement between the town board really and the highway superintendent. And yet the county highway superintendent is included in the process, which is kind of curious. So, you know.
The money has already been
Budgeted, but that
Budgeted.
doesn't mean, budgeting doesn't mean that it's approved for spending.
But just to clarify, this is a state requirement that this form be submitted annually.
Yeah. Section 284 of highway law.
So if you spend, was it $80,000? Isn't it something about spending over $80,000 that you need to do this or something?
Oh, no, that's
That was something
different.
else? Okay.
No, that's procurement, and we'll talk about that next,
Okay.
but. So this is just for the highway superintendent to start spending money on town roads for the year.
But we haven't done it before, or have you done this?
Well, we
before?
have done it before.
With a signature.
Yeah, we
Okay.
haven't, it should be done a little earlier in the
I
year.
feel like I remember signing something before.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. we've
just
done-
curious.
It's typically done annually.
That's
Great.
That's what.
And I'm my first annually.
Mhm.
Yeah, so. Okay, great, and yeah. But Bob told me that we are, you know, we are eligible for a large amount of state funding for paving roads. So, and it's more than 300,000, so we're in good shape there. So yeah, then Jonathan was alluding to the new highway barn that Bob sent us, the proposal for Home Central supplies. Bob did call me today and is not excited about having to do a procurement process for this. But I really do think from my reading, it's pretty, I mean, I understand that if you're building something And you go get some supplies and you build a couple walls and then you go back and get some more supplies, so it's. But it sure seems to me like this definitely triggers the procurement provision for bidding, so I was gonna run it by Guy, and then I told Bob I'd help put out a RFP for bids on this. But if you saw the document that Bob sent, it's not like we would, I don't know, we could itemize all these things, put out the quantity and the units and ask for a bid. I don't know, so.
No, wait, what's the assessment? Is this for replacing the Quonset hut, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the new Quonset, and what did he say? It's gonna be a 50-foot by 60-foot building.
Mark, wouldn't that be just the logical thing to do, is just to send that detailed information out for bid and see if numbers come in that are lower than what this company has given us?
Yeah, I think so. We have to take the numbers off of it, of course, and
Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't be too onerous. I mean, I would suspect that Bobby's concern is a matter of timeliness.
yeah, it is.
So hopefully we could just get a move on.
Okay, I agree. So I will work on that tomorrow and try to get that moving. Good, thank you.
Sounds good.
How quickly, in terms of deadlines, can we traditionally, in other words, how short a turnaround can we ask for these kinds of bids? Do you know off the top of your head?
It's up to us, but I've seen, it could be like, I suggested 2 weeks from the time of posting of the RFP. Let it go for 2 weeks, you open bids, you make a decision, you're done.
That seems reasonable to me. I mean, I'm sure it has to do with, right now it's really wet, so they probably aren't doing much road work, and I understand.
Yeah, no, he did say that, that's correct, yeah. Yep, okay. Great. So I think that's good advice, yeah. So that's all I have from the highway department. Code office, I would just say, Bob's pretty busy. I think I will remind him again to try to get us an April report. And I think he just got other things. He did send out the final agenda for the review board meeting on June 3rd. So he's got all those, I don't know, can't remember, 5 or 6 projects. There's 1 public hearing, so that's all set. Yeah, and then I'll move the county legislature. Did everybody get Dan Klein's email?
I did, yeah.
So yeah, did you have any questions about that? So I thought that was wise for them not to set an arbitrary target for their budget, given the uncertainties, and I think it makes sense to not do that. So it's like, I think, yeah.
It's also interesting that federal.
Oh, yeah.
That we're federally employed are applying for.
People out of work.
County, jobs.
Yeah. And one of the county jobs was for highway superintendent, you probably noticed. So Jeff Smith is retiring.
Oh,
That's a biggie.
Yeah.
while we're on the topic, so Fernando really wants to retire, but the search for his replacement was not successful. They're reposting it. So if anybody knows anyone who's interested in being, director of the MPO,
Ithaca Transportation Council.
yeah, Metropolitan Planning Organization for the area, this Ithaca Tompkins County Transportation Council. Yeah.
Great. Okay, I think that's all I have for reports. I'll let, unless you have questions, move on to the business items. So, I'm gonna steal this one back, so just so I'm looking at something. So I'm introducing the local law for flood damage prevention. As authorized by the New York State Constitution, Article 9, Section 2, and Environmental Conservation Law, Article 36. So this was drafted with it was drafted from a starting point of our recently adopted, I think it was December of 21, flood damage prevention law. And the DEC gave us very specific changes given the new flood maps, including putting all the flood map numbers in there. And then Guy Crow, our attorney, he put in some language to fortify the enforcement and penalties section. So that's a summary of what happened in creating this. So I think the one thing that was noted by the state, by Mr. Wisnowski and Guy was I hadn't put in a fee. So I did put in a fee of $400 for this. The rationale I used was that a SWIP review in our fee schedule is $350. If a project goes under, if there's a development project that falls under this for floodplain and under this, I think that's going to require significantly more code officer time and effort. So I think 400 is a minimum, is a modest number. And then it does say that the board may revise the number by resolution from time to time. And this law does recognize that we now have a zoning board of appeals for applications for variances.
And the definition of historic structure is probably
The definition of what?
of historic structure. It means any of those four, right? I don't think that's very clear whether it means to be 1, 2, 3, or 4. I think they mean or.
I think they mean all.
You think they mean all? So they have to be individual.
Historic structure means any structure that is 1, 2, 3, or 4. Oh, they mean or.
Right, so you can
You're
have the
right.
state. Yeah, I would think if you're on the National Register. Or if you're determined by the Secretary of Interior.
Yeah.
Or,
So number 3 has the or in it that sets.
That's the only one that has the or.
But I think that's the intent is,
Yeah.
you know, all of these are ors. It's-
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
yeah, I was just surprised that it's the National Register and not just New York State, you know, as an option, and then I saw 3 as an option, but then I thought, do you need both? So. Maybe that could get.
I would say no. This, to me, this says,
Because the 3 has
Any
or,
one of
you think
these.
it applies to 1 and 2?
what's that?
Because the 3 has the or.
Yes,
Do you think that
I
also
do.
applies to 1 and 2?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would it help to clarify if we said and or?
So under
Yeah, I think it
recreational,
would.
the same structure is under with recreational vehicle.
Wait,
It says recreational vehicle means a vehicle which is built on a single chassis. 400 square feet or less, blah, 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 designed to be self-propelled, blah, 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 and not designed primarily for use as a dwelling. So in that case, it's the same logic, you know,
As you were.
these are
Yeah.
all bound by ands.
okay,
I think it would help if it said, means any structure that is one of the following, or if we have or after
each
each
one,
one.
yeah,
Okay, we can add ors, I'm
Okay.
okay with that, but I I don't want to get into, I
I
mean.
know, I don't want to
so
get to pick.
The editing should have come
Okay.
before today,
Sorry.
so.
Okay. Okay.
Does that mean we are gonna modify recreational vehicle as well, to put ands after the,
I guess I
like
feel
parallel
that the
structure,
and is,
it's the same.
it makes sense because of the colon, and then you follow 1, 2, 3, 4, it's all of them. And that's what threw me off of historic, was there was a colon, and then there was 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I thought it included all of them, because it was a list of what's required. So it's the use of the colon is different with an or. Anyway, I'm not.
They're semicolons, right?
I'm not gonna worry about it.
Okay. Okay,
did you write these definitions or were they provided?
they're provided,
Okay,
and they've been, you know, whole thing's been approved by C and by Guy,
right, so
so
I don't think we need to put,
I don't wanna
Yeah, I don't have
start. But if
I
people
mean-
feel like.
I
If
mean,
the ors help, I will put those in. I don't think that's structurally significant or, you know, I don't think anybody's gonna quibble or, I don't know.
except me.
You just blame Guy. You're like,
No.
he missed it, he missed it.
I can't.
If anyone missed it, it's him, man.
You know, we're the ones changing it, so he'll blame us, so.
I can assure you that Guy would be able to go into a very detailed and elaborate explanation why this is correct.
Yeah,
And I was just going to say that I think that the entire document is really thorough, very, very tight, extremely helpful. So thank you to all those involved.
so, we do need to schedule a public hearing on this, and so. You know, so we can make modifications, you know, so. So I guess I will say, shall we make the or modification? Right now, because I would rather not make it later, I'd rather make it now and call that the introduced law. And go from there.
Okay,
So for historic structure, we're gonna add ors after those semicolons, is that correct? That's 2 ors.
I thought it was and or.
no, just
no,
or.
not and or.
No, that would, no,
joking?
that's, the reason you thought that is we started talking about recreational vehicle.
Which
Oh,
has and.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, so
I
after
am,
the summit.
my only quibble about this is, like I said, I am not excited about, it's clear to me the structural approach they took to the language here.
Okay, if it's clear to you,
And so,
I will withdraw my confusion.
well, I would either say we do them both or we just leave it alone. And,
I withdraw my confusion and say we
no,
should leave it
it's
alone.
fair. I mean, and what I don't want to happen is for a code officer or an applicant to misconstrue things.
Right.
Did you have something?
I was just gonna say, if you take the two together, then it's clear. But if you don't happen to read forward to see how recreational vehicles is handled, then you wouldn't know that.
Mhm. And that's
So,
probably not gonna happen for most people, right?
right, so it would make it more clear to me if you just added those two ors.
Okay, let's do that. So that's,
I don't think you needed to add an and for
Okay.
recreational vehicles because if you see a list, you think this means
All of them
everything.
are,
Yeah.
after the colon. you go,
Yeah,
that's
you
all
think everything is included.
okay,
List.
So that one, you know,
I'll
you
accept
see,
that.
you understand why we're saying it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
I do.
okay. And what were you gonna say, Jonathan?
I just curious, another whole question is, I'm trying to understand in general what the public hearings are for in regards to this. What might we expect the public to question or need more information about, or when they come, do we need to be prepared for a certain?
So it's a great question,
Yeah.
and it's a good anticipatory question.
I'm thinking most folks, if they have a question about this, is gonna be areas of flood zones. Not necessarily outside the, like, people aren't so much care about areas outside of, so like. Here, probably along 6 Mile Creek,
That's where they are.
that's where it's.
That's
people are
totally
gonna-
where they are.
So that
In the
community is
floodplain of
most
6
likely
Mile
gonna
Creek.
have the biggest, and this affects FEMA, and so, but we don't have any say, so it's almost like. Public hearing is important, but we can't change the map,
No,
Right,
and it's
No.
already been okayed,
but every time we make a law, we have a public hearing.
right? I'm just curious to see what people
So,
might say.
Yeah, both of those things are totally right. And yeah, so it's a necessary part of the process. It's possible. I don't know, I, for this particular animal. I think the current concerns we are gonna hear would be more likely to be like. Concerns about the extent of the floodplains, which that's not what we're doing. So, like you said, right?
Mhm.
What I did is I followed the directions and inserted all of the flood map designations in there so that the applicant and the code officer can figure it out.
I know
think
some-
statement of purpose is really helpful to
Mhm.
direct people to read and the objectives of the law.
I do know there are people down in Brooktondale that are in the floodplain that are educated already,
Yeah,
and so they're not gonna question anything, they know it's important, and, but it'd be interesting to see if.
yeah. And this is for public benefit. So the last
It is.
number 6 on 1.2. This is what will enable them to qualify and maintain participation in the National Flood Insurance Program.
Right.
So.
I mean,
So-
we don't want some poor soul to be building something, and use all their savings and then gets flooded out.
But your point is well taken, that I will prepare some introductory remarks to lay this out, and explain why we're doing this. And also point out that the county has added, information on their website about this to, FAQs and things that are really helpful, so,
That's nice to point people to something,
Yeah.
it's we don't have to reinvent the wheel,
yeah.
yeah, okay, cool,
So,
I should
no.
check with that myself.
I appreciate that, because, like when we did the bond thing, I stubbed my toe. Cause we just opened it up and, if I explained what was going on, that just would have been much better for people, so we'll do that. Great, okay, so without further ado, let's see, I think I wrote a resolution, didn't I? So I'll offer a resolution to set a public hearing for the flood damage prevention law. Resolved, the Carrollton County Board hereby schedules a public
Wait,
hearing.
did you want to have a resolution about the change to the ORs before? Or does,
Do we have to?
do we have to do that?
That-
No,
You made the
sorry.
notations, right, Jesse?
Okay,
Yeah, we'll make,
that's all we have to do.
we'll put it in that you made the notations and then you introduced it.
Okay,
Okay,
and we'll repost it as the
Yeah.
introduced. Great, thank you. So resolved, the Caroline Town Board hereby schedules a public hearing at 7 PM on Wednesday, June 4th, 2025 at the Caroline Town Hall to hear comments on a revised Caroline Flood Damage Prevention local law that recognizes updated FEMA floodplain maps and meets the minimum requirements for the National Flood Insurance Program. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And of course, this will be duly advertised in our newspaper and town announcements. So without further ado, I'll call for a vote if everybody's okay with that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great. Unanimous? All right. So the next item of business is to approve a proposal for audit service from Inthero Advisors. So I wrote some resolutions to kind of help myself explain things. So whereas expenditure of grant funds for the town's municipal broadband project in 25 and 26 will require professional audit services to produce federal single audits for each year, and whereas Inthero Advisors LLC has previously provided the town audit services and is providing this service for the town of Dryden for the broadband project, our partner in the broadband project, and whereas Inthero Advisors LLC has provided proposals for consulting services and generation of federal single audits for 25 and 26, resolve the Caroline Town Board hereby endorses the proposal from Inthero Advisors and authorizes myself to execute a contract for their audit services not to exceed $38,500 in fees for 25 and 26 federal single audits. And then they're also offering preliminary consulting services. Those fees are based on the assumption that we would engage them for these preliminary consulting services. So I did ask Matthew Ball, who I'm consulting with about this, what he expected that amount to be, and on the hourly rates were $125 to $275 an hour. And he thought that it would be something like $3,500 to $5,500 for that preliminary consulting. And yeah. So that's it. And this is a professional service, so we're not required to, you know, we can evaluate it based on our satisfaction with the service provided and the cost without getting additional proposals. So I feel good about this after talking with Amanda and Mr. Ball. So.
You need a second, Mark?
I do at some point, yeah.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Tim, and further conversation or questions. Seem reasonable? Yeah, okay, super. So without further ado, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Great, thank you. Couple little cleanup things. So I'll offer a resolution to transfer. Let me see. So I should change the title of that. Let's change that title. The transfer of reserved okay. So Jesse, I'm changing the title of this. I got a little overboard today. So the title is Transfer of Unreserved Fund Balance to Highway Equipment Reserve Account DA 233. And then the language of the resolved, I think, provides the information that I've tried to cram into the title. Resolved, the Caroline Town Board hereby transfers $36,070 from DA 909 unreserved fund balance. to DA 233 Highway Equipment Reserve Fund. My question is, does the inclusion of that parenthetical 2024 funds from sales, I'm worried about confusing. I don't mean to be referring to the 2024 budget document. This is the amount that we got in from sales of equipment in 24, and now I'm putting that money into the highway reserve account. So
For the same year or for another year?
I guess it's okay in there. What's that?
For the same year, 2024, for both?
Well, no, we're doing it now
2024,
for 25.
25,
So
okay.
those funds when the books were closed, they fell to fund balance from the revenue account.
Mhm.
Now that they're in there, I'm transferring them to the equipment expenditure line. So, not the equipment reserve.
The highway equipment reserve.
Highway equipment. So I'm going to keep the language as I wrote it in the resolve the same, unless anybody has. I think the parenthetical does explain why. So
It's clear.
okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
I don't
Thank
see
you for
anything wrong with
helping
the
me.
title either, but anyway,
What's that, Michelle?
I don't see anything wrong with the title either.
Oh, really? Well, I'm just worried about when it says transfer of 2024. I just don't, from a budgeting or accounting perspective, I don't want like Velvet to look at that and go, oh, he's talking about the 2024 books now.
Okay,
So I think the simplified title,
so what's the simplified title?
transfer of unreserved fund balance to highway equipment reserve account DA
Okay.
233.
Okay,
And it makes sense. I don't usually put those kinds of specifics in the title anyway, so
Right.
I think it's better that way. Great. And did I get a second on that one? From somebody?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Michelle. Any further questions or comments? And thank you. I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. And then I'll offer a transfer resolution. Resolve the Caroline Town Board hereby authorizes the following budget transfers. Just because I've been doing otherwise, I'm going to put 2025 budget transfers. Amount 140686.38 from A 1420.4 to A 1420.41. Those are both legal contractual account lines, but I'm just penciling it out between the broadband legal work and other legal work, so. And then 20,615.91. Same thing there, transfer from A 1620.44 highway barn capital reserves to A 1620.441 highway barn reserves for the new building that Bob's building and the highway crew.
I asked a question about that first 14.
Sure.
That's because in the future you want to you tracking the broadband. That makes sense rather than having it mix in with other legal stuff.
Yeah, so it's mainly just for us.
Because
So
you have
that-
to report.
Yeah, so that in our accounting reports, so Velvet will create those two lines, A 1420.4 and A 1420.41. And so then at 4.1, you can see at any point in the year, oh, we spent this amount on broadband legal services to Municipal Solutions or ORIC or whatever. So yeah. But in like Stephanie Molinas, our past bookkeeper, she said, for reporting to the comptroller, all they care about, they don't care about the decimals beyond tenth place. So it's it would be in this case 0.44. Just combine them. So. But yeah, just trying to keep track of stuff. Did we vote on this one? No, we didn't, did we?
No.
Okay. I'll All ready to vote?
I don't think you called
Okay.
for a second, did you, or no?
Did I get a
thought Tim
second?
seconded it.
Who? No. he
No.
seconded.
Oh, he seconded the other.
Second.
Yeah,
I
he
seconded it
called for a second,
seconds
yeah.
ago.
Okay, okay, so all in favor?
I,
Aye. Opposed, great, thank you. And let's see. Since we're still doing numbers, I'll offer resolution to authorize the payment of town bills. I have 3 vouchers here that I'd like to get one more signature on each. Resolved, Carrollton Town Board hereby approves the payment of audited vouchers. A fund 41,961.16. DA fund 84,348.86. Streetlight fund 287.44.
Thank
I
you,
have a-
Michelle.
Was that a second by Tim?
That was a thank you to Michelle.
oh,
Oh,
she's
oh,
on stuff.
oh. No problem.
I'll second it.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Yeah, thanks for covering me last month.
that was Kate. I
Doesn't-
think Kate covered you last month.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Nothing like over there.
All right, and
Okay.
the minutes of May 7th. Are there any comments on the minutes of May 7th?
I
Yeah,
sent,
Michelle sent me a couple of comments, which I made. I just haven't sent them to Mike for reposting. So I'll make myself
Okay.
a note to do that tomorrow.
Okay. So any other comments or will we approve? So the minutes of May 7th are hereby approved as amended with Michelle's comments. Great. Thank you. For the next meeting, we have the public hearing to start the meeting on the flood damage law. And then I wanted to ask Kate, would we want to consider at the next meeting the Safe Streets resolution?
Yes, I'd like to
Okay,
get the Safe Streets resolution done. So,
great.
yeah, next meeting.
So those are the 2 things I have for our next agenda meeting.
Mark, were you going to do liaison stuff tonight?
Yeah, I was. Oh my gosh. And I have it written right at the top. So fortunately, I remember the 284 agreement, but I do want to do the liaison stuff. So I will offer a resolution, and I have discussed this with folks. So to appoint Michelle Brown as the 2025 liaison to the town court, and Tim Murray as the 2025 liaison to the highway department. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Kate. And questions or discussion? And thank you for
Yeah.
offering to do that. Yeah. So if
Was
there's
it an offer?
So, yeah. And I again, yeah, we've talked through this before. A liaison is, in my view, simply a conduit, an ear and a voice between the board and a department. So, but it hopefully will provide those departments, an avenue for communication if they feel the need. So,
and will you notify the departments?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. All right, without further, did I get a second on that?
Yes.
I did. I
Kate
seconded it.
Kate seconded, that's right, you did, I remember now. So, and I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Do
Aye.
it.
Opposed? Great, thank you for reminding me of that, Tim. Great. All right, anything else to talk about before we consider adjourning? Well, thank you very much. I'll offer a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Kate, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great. And I enjoyed the youth presentation tonight.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah.
And I'll go to the next one to see if it's something I wanna do.
Okay,
Is that
awesome.
That'd be
Very
awesome.
good.
It shows
You want me to
the-
initially?
it shows all the property.
Yeah, you've got yours.